Good morning again and welcome. So we're in about the middle of Lent now, aren't we? And I hope my abrasive or offensive or denigrating speech is improving a little bit. It's getting further and further in the past, I hope. Today's text, Matthew has Jesus leaving the city of Jericho, where he has just cured a blind man, Bartimaeus, and is heading up the hill, up the road to Jerusalem. And on the way he calls the 12 aside and he says, listen, we're going up to Jerusalem and the Son of Man is going to be handed over to the scribes and the chief priests. They'll condemn him. He'll be tortured and then he'll be killed. And on the third day he'll be raised to new life. And then he said, you have also heard how amongst the pagans their rulers lord it over them, and the great men make their authority felt. This is not to be the case with you. If anyone wants to be great among you, let him be your servant. Anyone wants to be first amongst you, let him be your slave. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And it's that service aspect of Jesus' life that I want to look at a little bit this morning. And I want first of all to look at two examples of Columbans with whom I had the privilege of working or living in Peru, and then having a look at two examples in Jesus' life of service. The first fellow is a fellow from Ballarat, Leo Donnelly, whom I consider one of the great Columbans. And at one stage, Peru was under the threat, the shadow, and the absolute terror of a group called the Shining Path. The Shining Path was a Maoist, terrorist group that wanted to gain control of the country. And they wanted to do it through killing any leader or anyone who was doing any good work for the people. And we had two men up in the mountains in a village called Wasawasi. And they received death threats from the Shining Path. And the Shining Path said, either you leave now in a bus or you leave a little later in a box. And the locals in Wasawasi said to both of them, get out. I suppose, I don't know whether they said, but it's the sort of thing is, you're no good to us, dead. So they left. And yet the Columban group was uneasy with this. The church can't abandon people in their time of need. So we had a whole meeting in Lima, and one of the lads, Leo Donnelly, offered to go back to Wasawasi to share the fear and the terror and to bring to those people something of hope and consolation, to proclaim the word of God and to celebrate the sacraments and to accompany the people. And he was prepared to give his life for them. The other man is a fellow called Paul Prendergast, who came from just across the pond, a New Zealander. And Paul also worked in Lima, like Leo, but the people in his parish were from the mountains mainly, and many of them would invite him to come up to the mountain village or town and celebrate with them their great fiesta, the feast in honour of their patron saint. It might be Mary, Our Lady of so-and-so, it might be a saint of such and such, and to celebrate with them that feast. And the more he did this, the more he appreciated that The people in the villages in the mountains were abandoned, pastorally and ministerially. So Paul began to learn their native language, Quechua, and then he volunteered to go up to the mountains. And he lived with those people for 30 years. He learned their language very well. And he died in Peru. But he was living at an altitude of 4,000 meters, which is impossible. So I want to celebrate those two fellas, who were people who served and were prepared to give their life for their people. And the other two examples, of course, are of Jesus. We know the Last Supper, how Jesus got up from the table, took off the festival gown, put on a towel, and began to wash the feet of those present at the supper. And he said, "Do you understand what I have done for you? I have given you an example. Because if I, the Lord and Master, wash your feet, it is so that you might do the same one for another." And the other one is one we've already looked at, is the Palm Sunday. And Jesus comes into the town mounted on a donkey. Jesus comes in humility and in service. So both of these, I think, both the gestures of Jesus and the lives of Paul and Leo are examples for us as we're coming into Lent. And Jesus says, the Son of Man came to serve, not to be served. God bless you. Have a good week.